Flosstube, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here for Flosstube number 12. I just want to thank everybody who has been watching my videos, liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. And welcome to anyone who is watching me for the first time. I hope you enjoy it and I hope you stick around. So hello on this beautiful sunny Saturday in April, almost at the end of the month. I'm not sure if this will get posted up today. I am going out tonight, but if I can get it up before I leave, I will. If not, I will post it to schedule for tomorrow. But again, thanks everybody for being here and let's jump into it. For the month of April, I worked on about 6 or 7 projects. I had one new start, and in total, well, not exactly total, for those projects where I can count the amount of stitches I have, the ones that are on Pattern Keeper, I did a little over 12,000 stitches this month, which I am crazy proud of. One of which over 4,000 stitches on one particular piece, which I'll show you in a moment. But first off, let's jump into my new start. I did have one new start this month, just a little one, a little Mill Hill Buttons and Beads kit called Potions and Spells. Sorry about the glare. So just on a little perforated paper, picked this up from 123 Stitch, I believe, and just a small start. Where is the top? So this is the beginning of the skull that's on there. And what I've done is surrounded this with just some washi tape. I was on the Frosted Pumpkins live last week, and one of them mentioned like using washi tape to go around the outside of perforated paper, and I was like, that is genius, because the amount of, well, this is only my second piece I've done using perforated paper, but the first piece I did, the pain that was every time your thread would catch on one of these edges here was just made it absolutely a horrible experience. But now, I mean, working on perforated paper isn't the most fun in the world, but with the washi tape here now, at least my threads aren't catching anymore. This project took me forever to kit up because it all comes it's a kit, so everything comes together and the threads are just kind of in there. You're not told in any way which thread is what. They're just all together. So using the process of elimination, you know, some are very easy, 310 easy to pull out, the 550 easy. Other ones, it then became, is this the blue-gray one? Is this the light gray one? And kind of comparing one to the other became a real bugbear. But hopefully I got them all right, and I guess I'll find out as I work through the piece. So let me get that one out of the way. Next up, I worked on, this is what I was actually working on today up until I, stopped to film. It is my Autumn Lane Stitchery Wicked Witchcraft. I will pop up a photo of what it looks like the last time you saw it. So this is great. It's only got 5 colors. Here is what she'll look like when she's finished. Lots of 939, lots of, what is it, 500 or 501, 502, one of those. Very mindless stitching where you can just thread up a needle and go. So here is where she is at now. So I was working on this upper corner here. Let me fold this up and get you a bit closer. There we go. So this is partly Pattern Keeper compatible. It's one of their older charts, so it's not regular Pattern Keeper compatible. You can upload it, but it doesn't recognize the symbols or anything, so you can't search for a symbol. You do have to be careful as you're highlighting, because it will just let you highlight every single square, but at least it's in there. I like it because I've imported it on one. It's in Pattern Keeper, it's then kind of on one page, so then I'm not having to compare between like page 1 and page 2 to make sure I've got the overlap right and all of that, because that's where I find that I make a mistake. I miscount or I overcount, and it's just a pain. So having it in Pattern Keeper, even though it's not perfect, is definitely a win, I think. So I'm trying to be more organized and put these things away as I go. So then it's just not me having to spend the next 15 minutes when I'm done filming Oops, sorry, I will try not to zip actually, because I know some people don't like that. Next up, I worked on my Halloween Quaker by Lila Studio. Oh, sorry, I should say the Wicked Witchcraft I'm doing on a 32 count Jobelan in the color Niaid. It is the called for from the pattern. I'm using all the called for DMC, except for there's a 3819 that I'm using a Classic Colorworks Kiwi on. So it's just slightly variegated, like a limey green into like a kiwi color. But my Halloween Quaker, here is what it will look like when it's finished. So beautiful. I'm sure everybody's seen this before. It makes the rounds on Flosstube quite frequently from Lila Studio. I'm using all the called for Classic Colorworks, and then instead of 310 though, I'm using a sulky, which I did buy the one that was not the correct weight. So I'm doubling it up, which is not the end of the world. It means I can do a loop start. I'm doing this on 40 count verdal in the color, oh God, Tsunami by BeStitchMe. Oh, here is what it was the last time you saw it, and here is what it is now. So happy Halloween. I finished Happy Halloween. I started these, I think they're spiders. And yeah, I'm really, 40 count is a little bit of an adjustment, obviously. I've mainly worked on 32, but I love how tiny and small everything is. I think I'm gonna start to do a lot more things on 40 count just to get them to be a little smaller, which is what I think a lot of people end up doing. You know, you start with your 28, 32, and you do 40 for the first time, and once you adjust, you just realize how much you like the tiny things. So I'll put that one away. Okay, what do we have next? Next up we have my Bella Filipina. This was actually one of my Whip Go calls for the month. My Whip Go call was a pretty lady or a fancy lady. I chose Bella Filipina for 5 days. Now, because this is a paper pattern, I don't know how many stitches I did, but I ended up doing about 7 days on this. Here's what she will look like when she's finished. Absolutely gorgeous. Let me bring her in. And then here is what she looked like the last time you saw her. Oops, something's on my fabric. And here is where she is now. So I was able to get, so now it looks like she has a tail. Even though it's not all done, it now looks more like a tail. I started some of the coral and then was working my way up into her body. So let me come in here. So let me bring it. This is more the color. It's quite dark. It blends in really well with kind of one or two of the colors I'm using, which can sometimes make it a little hard to stitch. And I really need the lighting to be optimal for me to work on this piece. Otherwise, I just can't see the holes. I didn't think of that when I like paired it up. I was just like, wow, this is a beautiful fabric. And it still is beautiful, don't get me wrong. I just need my lighting to be optimal for me to work on her. And my goodness, the fractional stitches that are in this piece, there's a lot. And the krienik, originally I was going to leave the krienik to the end just because that's typically what I like to do, because then I don't have to worry about it snagging and pulling out and then me having to redo it, because krienik can be a real pain in the rear. This has so much krienik. So I thought, I don't want to leave that to the end. At least if I do it bit by bit, it breaks up that pain and heartache that is working with krienik. Oddly enough, the krienik that I do have to use, so far there's 3 that I've been using, 2 krieniks and 1 petite treasure braid. I switched out the petite treasure braid because it was similar in color to the krienik, and I had the petite treasure braid at home. So I may as well use that rather than paying for another piece of krienik just for this piece. But the krienik that I have actually was working up better than the petite treasure braid, which I feel like is usually the other way around. But so the krienik was nice to work with actually, and I got that done. And I mean, I'm really glad I did, not just because of the getting it done and, you know, breaking up, doing the krienik, but because there's so much, it fills in those gaps and just really helps to make the piece pop and look as beautiful as it is, you know. So that is Bella Filipina. She is on a 32 count lugana in the color Cersei by Fabrics by Stephanie. Oh. Next up is my Visit Lothlorien, which is by Country Magic Stitch. She has her own website now. Used to be on Etsy, but now is her own website. Here is what it will look like when it's finished. And then here is what it looked like the last time you saw it. I got about 1,500 stitches on this one. It is a full coverage. Oh, I'll just open it all up. So that's where I'm up to. Let me bring it in. Again, lots of block colors, very easy, very mindless. This is on a 28 count Monaco from Michaels, but my goodness, does it eat the floss, the 28 count. It just, I go through so much floss with this. And considering it's block, so I feel like when it's block stitching, you're using the floss to its fullest capacity because you're not, you know, dragging things back and forth and kind of wasting floss that way. But still, I mean, so much floss gets used up on that. But that's a nice, fun piece. Look, nice and easy. I'm trying to get, I want to try and get and do something on this piece every month, even if it's just a couple hundred stitches, because it's, you know, it's a full coverage. I want to get it done, and it's nice to come from something that's been very bitty and lots of kind of fiddly stuff to something that's block stitching, or if, you know, it's been a long day at work and my brain's just not all there. I don't want to have to worry too much about counting and double checking, looking at a pattern, looking, you know, back and forth. That's a really good piece to work on. Nice and easy. It's in Pattern Keeper. It works perfectly in Pattern Keeper, so it's fantastic. Next up is my Dark Queen of the Earth, also by Autumn Lane Stitchery. I'll pop up a photo of what it looked like the last time you saw it. I don't have a cover photo because it is a stitch along, a mystery stitch along. So there's no, like, this is what it'll look like when it's finished, because we don't know what it will look like when it's finished. I am doing this on a 32 count linen in the color Nightshade by Under the Sea Fabrics. It is one of the called for options. And here is where I am up to. So let me bring her back. So I did the alternate face version. So this only came out around the 20th, I want to say, maybe, give or take a few days, because Aaron was still working on the face. So, you know, that's fine. It's not, as you can see, it's not like I didn't have other things to occupy my time as we were waiting for the face. But let me really zoom in on that. Like those eyes, so many fractional stitches, so much back stitch, just absolutely stunning. Worth it in the end, definitely worth it. I can't wait to see what's going to happen, you know, up here on top of her head, like with the, sorry, I'm flipping you off, with the, whatever this is this more hair, is this horns? I do not know. Cannot wait to find out. Very, very proud of myself that I have not caught up, but I have stayed caught up. So every month I have been, you know, get it done. I try to get it done within the first kind of week when it comes out. It's usually the first piece I'll work on for the month. This one, I was a little nervous because he was still working on the face. So we were waiting for the face. And then I was like, oh gosh, if it's so much fractional and back stitch, is that going to put me off? And then I'm not going to stay caught up. And I got caught up with the stitching, but then I was starting to do the back stitch, but I didn't have a printed copy. I was working off my my iPad to show with the back stitch, and that was just not ideal. So I had to wait till I was back in the office so I could print it off, and then that just kind of made more time, but I stayed caught up. Very pretty. So that is the Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery. That was part 8. And there are 12 parts, so we only have 4 more to go. I believe it should be finished September is maybe the last part. Oh, sorry for the zipper. The other piece I worked on this month was my Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, the Nutcracker Parade. Here is what it looked like the last time you saw it. This one was kind of an unexpected one and with a lot of unexpected progress. I ended up doing over 3,000 stitches. I was finding there were some days where, not that I didn't want to stitch, I wanted to stitch, but I wanted something easy to stitch, but I didn't want to stitch on my Visit Lothlorien with so much block. And I thought, I'm going to pull this one out. It's not kind of called for. It's little. It also, because it's little, means I could get a finish soon. And after finishing Autumn last month, I was kind of on this like, oh, I want to finish stuff. I want progress and I want stuff finished so that I can start more things. So here is where I got up to. So the Nutcracker Parade. Oh, I'm trying to show you without like, oh, that's about right. So this is on a 28 count Monaco as well that I picked up from Michael's and then dyed myself just using Rit dye. And I think I did a pretty damn good job. So I'm almost finished with this. There's only about 700 and something stitches left to go, which means I could get this finished next month. If if it's a weekend, that could be one day. If I have nothing else to do, I can knock out 700 stitches on something like this in one day. And then that would be done. And then I've got plenty of time to finish it before the Christmas season rolls around. Okay, and then finally, the last piece I worked on, which is probably the piece I worked on for the most, is my Heaven and Earth Designs, Jasmine Beckett Griffith, Faces of Fairy 201, or the Black Swan. Nope, let me get the shadow. So I started this piece back in November of 2021. So it's over a year old. I really want it done because, I want it finished. I've been working on it for over a year. I want it done. So I had set myself a goal at the beginning of the year to finish it by the end of the year. And to finish it by the end of the year, at the time I started, it was doing something like 850 stitches a month. And I was like, that's very doable. I was doing really well, doing at least that 850, if not more. So which means that I was still going to stick to that 850 a month. It just could possibly end up getting finished earlier. It was my whip go call for April, my second whip go call, and it was actually to do 2,000 stitches. So I had thought to myself, I'm not going to then do the 850 and whatever the whip go call is. The whip go call would just kind of replace the 850 that I needed to do that month. But I got on a roll, and I also bought another full coverage. And I told myself, you can't start that full coverage until you get to at least 90% in this full coverage. And the reason I set that goal for myself was because I thought, if I start this new full coverage, which I'll show you a photo soon, and like really get into it and really start, and then neglect this isn't going to get finished by the end of the year, and it could just languish until who knows when. But for me, I knew, well, if I get myself to 90%, that's 90%, that's only 10% left. That in itself is the drive to keep going and keep doing my at least 850 a month to get there by the end of the year. So I then was like, well, can I get to 90% this month? So I can just start it sooner and get all this progress. Here is where she was the last time you saw her. And let me get it so we can see it all. Here is where she is now. Look at that. So I ended up putting in, I'll give you the exact number. Oh, I don't have it. About 4,300 stitches. And I am at 90%, a little over 90%. Like, this is just crazy. What I will do as well is I'm going to throw up kind of like a photo montage so you can see like where I started, and then kind of each day's progress to get to this point. So I did kind of bring myself back into doing kind of like a stair step, semi-parking, but not. I like parking and I don't like parking. But I did buy some bobbies things that'll hopefully help me with parking and doing more parking, because the next project, I think I'm definitely going to need to park. But look how pretty she is. And like I did all of this. So I was kind of, the lips weren't done. It was kind of like this weird diagonal from like here. So I did all of this and finished out 15 colors. So there's 15 colors I was able to put back in my stash because they zeroed out. The beautiful pattern keeper when it tells you when it zeroes out. Like, it's just amazing the way this looks like, you know, glass. It's just so well done. Beautiful. I do also have the companion piece to this, which is the white swan, which I will do eventually, I think. I don't think I'll start it as soon as I finish this one, but it definitely, I've got the pattern, so it will be on there at some point, because I'd love to have them hanging side by side. So I'll have to do it on, this is a 32 count gridded. I'm doing it 2/2, so I'll have to do the white swan the same way so that they're the same, because they are the same size, 175 by 175. Okay, ooh, I'm not gonna zip that up. That is everything I worked on for the month of April. Like I said, about 12,000+ stitches for the month, which I'm very proud of. Not sure if I'll get that done this month or not, we'll see. So let's move into, actually, before I move into haul, I even made a note about it. So my frosted pumpkin piece, this one, is partly Pattern Keeper compatible. So when, I don't know if this happened to everybody, but this is what happened to me. When I uploaded it to Pattern Keeper, it basically quadrupled every symbol. So every symbol was coming up 4 times as if they were different symbols. So let's just say it was a plus. That plus was there 4 times. No idea why. It's obviously not perfect, but it's there. You also do need to tell it what color is what, which is fine. There's other patterns I've had to do that with as well. That's fine. It's in Pattern Keeper. It lets me count, which is perfect. Now, if you'll notice in this piece, which I keep kind of folding up, there are so many like snowflakes, a lot of white. Well, when you mark off a white symbol in Pattern Keeper, because the background is white, it disappears. So you lose your reference point, which I really needed for snowflakes. So what I did, because then I was like, well, I'll pull the paper pattern out and then mark them off when I'm done in Pattern Keeper, blah, blah, blah. So that was just a little bit annoying. What I ended up doing to help myself was I went in and changed the color in Pattern Keeper from white to ecru. So that way it would show up when I would mark it off. It would show that ecru color, which means it wouldn't disappear. I'd still be able to have my reference point. There is no ecru otherwise in the pattern, so I'm not confusing myself in that way. I know that even though Pattern Keeper says ecru, it is actually white. So that's a little trick and tip for you, I suppose, if you're having that kind of problem where the white is then, you know, whiting out because it's a white color with a white background. Try changing the color in Pattern Keeper. You can either change it like I did, just call it DMC ecru, or you can do a custom where you could still type in and write white. So it's written as white to help you. And then you just use the color palette and make it an off-white or whatever other color you want to help you be able to see it. That's an option as well. So, or just use the ecru like I did because it wasn't in the pattern otherwise. So I've been meaning to tell you about that for months and just kept forgetting. So let's move into haul. I bought a couple of things this month. So I got another buttons and beads. This is the Haunted Mansion. So this is what I mean about the threads. So they just all come like this. And then, I'm not sure how much you can see. So here's so it'll tell you the floss color, the symbol, what the DMC number is. But then you have to go through all of this and, okay, that's the black, pull out the black. And which, when you start getting into colors that look very similar, it was, I swear it took me like an hour and a half. I think I've kitted up my Niaid quicker than I kit this thing up, the other one. But I bought that because they're fun and they're little. I think I'm gonna sneeze. I am not gonna sneeze. The other thing I bought is I went into Hobby Lobby because I had to pick up some floss. They unfortunately didn't have, I needed one color, and of course they didn't have that one color that I needed. But I went into the clearance section just to see what they had. You know, you never know. People have been talking about how Hobby Lobby is, I don't know if they're bringing in new cross-stitch stuff, they're clearing out what they have, but they had a lot of cross-stitch stuff on clearance. So I thought I'll go in and see what they have. The only thing they had that I actually ended up getting was the DMC color thing, because it was $2.50. Do I need it? Probably, maybe not, but it was $2.50. I could not help myself when it was $2.50. So now I have all of that, which helps if I'm doing a pattern that maybe only has a couple of colors, and if I don't have something in stash, rather than going out to get it, trying to find something similar. Not that it's too bad. We're lucky here in the US where our, you know, floss skeins are between like 50 and 70 cents a skein, so it's actually really quite affordable. We're lucky in that way. But if I only need something for 10 stitches, if I can find an alternate, I'll find an alternate. Next up, I got my fabric of the month from BeStitchMe. This is actually the March fabric of the month. So I didn't have that the last time I filmed, and I don't have April's yet. It is set to arrive sometime next week, I think. It has shipped, but it is the 40 count verdal. That's what I get. I switched from where you should switch it up between a color or a neutral from like 1 month to the next. I changed to just the neutrals club because I've got a couple of patterns that will need some kind of neutral for me to stitch it. So I just thought, rather than going out and buying something else, I'll just wait a little bit longer and hope that something from my fabric of the month club comes in, and then I can just use that. And I think I have. So here is the color. Excuse me the crinkles. This is Ledger, like I said, 40 count verdal. So very light blue and kind of yellow mottling, which I think is very pretty. And what I'll leave this out because I have a potential project for it, which I'll show you in a moment. I also bought some gridded fabric from 123 Stitch for the full coverage I'm about to show you, and then some Atom Heart thread chips. So I got the 100 pack because for the full coverage that I'm going to do. The full coverage I'm doing now, I use Annie's Keepers. That's what I use. I love them. I think they're the best thing since sliced bread. But a full coverage is not a short-term project, at least for me. If you can knock out a full coverage quickly, more power to you. For me, it is not quick. My Faces of Fairy has taken me over a year. I'm at almost a year and a half. So those flosses are sitting on those Annie's Keepers in that project. I don't like to buy floss per project. I do like to see what's in my stash and take from there, because while I can respect and understand that people, every time they buy a new project, buy new floss, because dye lots can change. And I mean, I've seen it where people have shown, you know, this is what I bought however long ago, and this is when I've bought it now, and they're different colors. I don't mind if that happens, especially with this next full coverage piece that I'm going to show you. There's going to be so much confetti that if in the top left corner, whatever that color is slightly different from something that's in the bottom right corner, even though they're both whatever the number is, you're not going to be able to tell. Now I can see if you're doing a block of 823 and it goes from block A to block B and they're two different colors when they should be the same color, I totally get that. But for me, I do try to use all the skein before I then go and buy a new skein. I do have extras of, you know, the whites and the blacks and the 939s. And if a project calls for, you know, 3 skeins, if it's going to need 3 skeins, I'll buy those 3 skeins at the time. But I don't then, I'm doing another project and I might need, you know, a couple of lengths. I'm not going to go buy another skein for that. I'll just pull from the set that I have. So all that to say, that's why, sorry, that's why I bought these thread chips, because I want to be able to have these, you know, on my floss ring, kitted up with my Heaven and Earth designs, but I am going to try and just pull what I need and put on the floss ring, the floss drop, because, you know, you can tell Heaven and Earth designs tell you of, you know, 415, this is only going to need 200 stitches. So I'm not going to need to put a full skein on this floss drop. I'll just put a couple of lengths on, and if need be, I can grab a couple more. But that's what I'm going to do. That way I can keep those other ones in my master set or in other projects, and not wonder where like all my floss is. That was a really, really long-winded story. Let's get into the full coverage that I bought that I'm going to start. I don't know when. Maybe this month, maybe next month. It is Mania. So I bought, and I'm completely and utterly blaming Holly the cross stitch addict on this, Alternative Reality by Josephine Wall. This is just the regular version. It's not max color. It's not the mini. It's just the regular one. Look at that. So I have been watching for a couple of years now, Teresa Little Stitcher. She's been working on it for a number of years. Holly's been working on it for a couple of years, I think, as well, but I had binge watched all of Holly's videos, so I kind of saw from the start of when she started her Flosstube, and so like kind of seen Alternative Reality come together. And I liked it with, you know, Teresa. I loved it with Holly. At first I thought maybe I just go out and buy the print, because then it's, you know, boom, it's bought, it's there. It hasn't then taken me X amount of years. But then I was like, no, you know what? I'm actually going to stitch it. Now I know it's a Josephine Wall, and I know the confetti is going to be next level because it's a Josephine Wall and that's what she does. But I just think it's so beautiful. Like the way she's coming out of the mirror, and oh, stunning. So I'm going to do that on a 25 count. So that's the fabric I bought from 1, 2, 3 Stitch, 25 count. What I'm still tossing up is, do I do it 1/1 full cross, or do I do 10 stitch? I have been watching Suki, the brown-eyed stitcher. She does 10 stitch. Teresa Little Stitcher has a couple pieces in 10 stitch. And I had put on one of the Facebook groups I'm on and kind of just asked some people, hey, show me some photos of when you've done 2/1 10 stitch on 25 count, so I could see the coverage and everything. And somebody had done the, I think it was from Tilton Crafts back in the day, the one ring where it's kind of on that black background and you have the ring from Lord of the Rings. And it looked stunning. Like you could not tell from the photo that it was in 10 stitch. Now, potentially if you're, you know, a foot away from it, you can tell it's 10 stitch, but that's not the purpose of cross stitch. You're not meant to look at cross stitch from a foot away. You're meant to kind of stand back. So that's why I'm like, do I do 10 stitch? Do I not? Doing the 10 stitch would allow me to have 2 strands, which then allows you to do the loop start, which I then think helps keep your back just a little bit neater, especially when you're talking about something that will have a lot of confetti, a lot of threads stopping and starting. So tell me your opinions, people who do 10 stitch, who do the 1/1. You know, how much of a learning curve is it? Because you're only doing the one leg, and you know, is it just worth it to do 1/1 full cross, or is 10 stitch absolutely worth it? It's definitely faster from what I've heard, because you're only doing one leg of the stitch. You're not having to come back. So this has over 100,000 stitches. So maybe that's also something to think about as well, is just doing 10 stitch so it doesn't take me 15 years to do, because I don't want it to take 15 years. So that is everything that I have bought for the kind of in the last month or so. Moving on to plans. So I'm not going to do like a mania, I think the way everybody does. I like to do, there's like 3 things that I have to do each, or sorry, 4 things I have to do each month. From me, what I set myself. So one is the part, whatever we're up to, of the Dark Queen of the Earth. So getting that done and getting that finished. Next up is my 2 Whip Go calls. So whatever those happen to be, I get those done. And then my 950 on the, sorry, 850 on the, oh my God, my words are gone because I got a text message and it confused me, on my Faces of Fairy. So those are 4 things that each month I have to do. The Dark Queen of the Earth, sometimes those parts can be massive. Like we had one that was 3,500 stitches. They're always at least, I want to say at least 2,000 stitches each month, if not more. If they're less, it's only a little bit less. So that's usually a big call and takes, you know, a number of days to do. 850 on my Faces of Fairy can take how long it takes, depending on what I'm working on at that point. Is it a confetti section? Is it some block? That may take as long as it takes. And then my Whip Go just depends on what gets called and for how many days or stitches. For this month, the numbers were 23 and 25, which for me was 1 color on my Twisted Rainbow Sampler by Northern Expressions Needlework. So that is 1 color that I have to do, which I looked in Pattern Keeper is about 1,700 and something stitches. So that's not terrible. And it's 1 color, so that can go fast. It is on black fabric though, which can slow me down a little bit because I need, you know, the right lighting and everything. And then the second was to work on a Stitch Rovia piece for 1,000 stitches because hers are Pattern Keeper compatible. I don't currently have a Stitch Rovia whip, so that means it's a new start. And I've decided to do the Awesome Myth. So it says, be so awesome, people think you're a myth, which I think is just absolutely great. So I was going to do this on, this is just crosses, a little bit of backstitch. I was either going to do this on this. I just don't know if the yellow would look weird. Or I have a 40 count verdal in, it's called Sand Dollar, but I think it's because it's verdal, the, you know, modeling doesn't show up as much as it would on like a linen. So it's very, very mildly modeled and kind of is like an off-white color. So let me know your thoughts. Do I do it on this? It kind of looks oceany. It could be sand, the yellow. Or do I just do it on the plain Sand Dollar? Or do I do it, who knows what the fabric that's currently in the, on its way to me looks like. It could be another perfect one. I will find that out next week. But let me know your opinion. I'm always happy to listen. But that is everything that I've worked on for the month of April. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody has a phenomenal day. Please give me a like, and if you're not a subscriber, it would be great if you could subscribe to my channel if you want to keep watching my content. But thank you anyway for watching all the way to the end. Like I said, have a great day, have a great weekend, and a great May. Bye, everybody.